So, we're going to talk about the myth of reconnecting with old friends or old acquaintances. For me, I noticed that when the own progress in my life really took off, it was when I sort of disconnected from all of the past sort of, whether it was shitty personalities, whether it was sort of, druggier kind of people with insecurities, people with their own set of bullshit that they were dealing with. I just had to sort of back off from those networks, from those groups, and really focus on self. And it becomes this kind of like borderline, quote unquote, isolationist kind of a thing. But I think when you're in the progressive stages, when you're in a self-development stage, you really can't be internalizing everybody else's shit, right? And this also, some of this may include what you see on social networks, but I'm talking specifically about your friends, you know what I mean? And then when your quote unquote friends, and then when you stumble across them down the line, you maybe shoot the shit for a bit. It's good to play catch up or whatever, but there's something undeniably less, enthusiastic about the interaction. And I guess for me, I had to really look at, there's a reason why, like, you can be nostalgic, but again, looking backward when you should be looking forward, and you should be in the now and strategizing on how to make your now the most efficient so that you can then move forward. You can't really be focusing on everybody else and their whatever position in life that they've put themselves in. This might be vague sounding, but really it isn't. I mean, we don't need to get into too many specific details. I'm testing out these YouTube videos, trying to keep, some of them short and some of them longer and so on and so forth. One of the easiest ways to sort of get comfortable with yourself, to face the anxiety, to face the depression, as contradictory as it may sound, it's got a lot to do with almost retreating into self, hearing one's own thoughts, finding one's own true. Like, here's a perfect example. When I was sort of more in a stage of trying to connect with so many different people and trying to put my face out there and so on, I found myself listening to a lot of, in like that 2012, whatever, 2010, 2013, 14-ish trap music phase. Well, the EDM kind of trap, electronic trap kind of phase. And really saying that, okay, well, I can network with these people and connect and, and quash my own real interests of more down-tempo lounge music, lo-fi kind of music. But then first, from a socializing standpoint, then allow myself to go to a lot of these sorts of events. And it didn't really do anything for me, right? Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, you feel like, you've connected with some people. But for the most part, it's a borderline. It can be a waste of your time, right? And you don't want to be sitting there thinking to yourself, I just quashed yet another part of my personality in order to fit in. You know what I mean? Even if the fitting in is kind of like a farce, or it's a facade or whatever. Another story. I said I wasn't going to get specific, but now I'm getting specific. New Brunswick. Being one of the few minorities in New Brunswick, but living in a town of, different cliques, and being somewhat of an outsider, having a bit of a eclectic taste. I'm not trying to sound like a fucking asshole here with saying that, but it's one of those things. Like, you have a different set of tastes than any of the cliques and any of the different groups. So you identify more as an outsider. And sorry, there's noise out here. But when you're more of an outsider, but then you do also want to have this level of, I connect with people. What do you then do? You then force yourself to like things like hockey. You then force yourself to sort of go to way one too many of these, keggers or whatever. Because and then the art scene maybe is a bit more of a indie-ish scene. They take you a bit strange as being like this super tall, super dark guy. Not super dark, but dark enough, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, you don't really get, you try and get into some of the indie. You try and get into some of that shit, but for the most part, you are really on your own tip. And so then what's the next stage? You then, your students, you start to bounce away from them, from the student life. And then you start to kind of hang around more of the local small town people who are themselves like, for them it was like, I sensed in them it was like their lives were more simpler. And it wasn't so much of a farce or facade from that standpoint. And maybe that's what originally kind of made me be like, oh, let me hang around a lot of these locals. Because it was more of a what you see is what you get. It's like I am a drunk blue collar person. But then you're still compromising your own sense of identity from an ethnic standpoint and from just a personality standpoint. It's like, at the end of the day, these people are, I mean, I don't want anything I'm going to say is going to sound judgmental, but if you're in a hillbilly-ish environment, and I guess in that sense, because they've had contact, because it's a university town, a lot of these quote-unquote hillbilly-ish people have had a little bit more interaction with minorities, or a little bit more interaction with, like, quote-unquote the football team. But then even that, they start to perceive you as, how many times I heard shit like, something to the effect of like, oh, you're one of the whether it's like the whitest black guy that I know, or, oh, you're not like the others or something. It's like what it is that you don't fit the stereotype of what they think quote unquote black people should be like. And because you don't fit that stereotype, it's off-putting to them. Or it kind of throws them for a loop. And you never 100%, you never let yourself subscribe to the stereotype, but at the same time, you don't really express too much of your own individuality and so on and so forth. So I'm trying to keep this short, below 10 minutes, but I guess the overall theme for me is kind of like turning 32. I was streaming earlier, so I got this set up here. Turning 32, progressing out of the intro version. Oh boy, sorry, this is some raw shit. Progressing out of the intro version. There's a bit of an existentialist crisis of sorts, but not really. This is gonna be so raw and rugged, but whatever. It's the overall message that I'm more focused on. And then, what are some effective ways to, now that you've sort of realized the various sub-social categories and social networks that exist and that you have tried to subscribe to that don't, or not even really conform, maybe it is conform to, it doesn't work out like that. And then you realize that the whole time it was this internet thing that was really the solution. And I know that, I kind of went on this babbling rant about the whole Instagram being like the worst for mental health. And it sucks, because it does affect some people. But again, it comes down to how you're using these things. Are they tools or are they just escapism? So I'm putting this YouTube video up just to be in the habit. I'm more about, Twitch and streaming on Twitch. That's more natural to me. So therefore, I'm going to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on that. Same with the rants, the audio rants. That is my thing. That's what I do. And then some Twitter. And it's like, it's one of those things I always kind of go back and forth with, like, I'll always like talk about the social media sites and then like the usages, because I think there's cultures and communities that exist specific to these sites and these apps and these platforms, and therefore it's worth looking into from a standpoint of these aren't just they are distribution kind of platforms, like you distribute your whatever your little videos and audio, but find Instagram is almost kind of like Instagram is almost the epitome of that bullshit high school popularity contest, right? And you need to think of it a bit like that if you want to really navigate and understand it. Facebook is like that too. Instagram is like that. The rest are less, you know what I mean, to an extent. And they at least have different, they don't have as much of a negative effect, you know what I mean? So, on your mind. So, that's my thoughts on that. I kind of like these unscripted rants. I'm trying to use this mic because I know them earbuds are bullshit, but, you know, thanks for joining this little video. Thanks for watching this little video. I was going to say join the stream because that's usually what I'm doing, but yeah. One final thing. And I think this is important. If you are introverted and you do find it difficult to sort of get out of your head and speak, and you spend a lot of time alone, stream. Just go on Twitch. You know, I was just on Twitch. I was on there for an hour and a half. I was supposed to go on there for 20 minutes. And I ended up being on there for an hour and a half. And it delayed like the things I was supposed to be doing. Because it was such a good conversation that I was having. People were cool. Something about that platform that you know, you people stumble across your stream and then they'll join and listen to you talk, and if they like you they'll hang out and so on and so forth. Just stream and talk to people. I've also been doing this little vlogging thing. I guess this is what this is. And you know, just testing it out, you know what I mean? It allows you to sort of engage, you know what I mean? It's a piece of technology you're talking to, but at the same time it doesn't judge you. It just, you know, literally is just taking in the information, like literally taking in the information and allowing you to do what you want with it from a creativity standpoint. So anyway, that's the end of that. I don't want to go to 13 minutes here. Metaphysician 7. Peace.